Tonight on Podcast Them Down, a painfully technical discussion about wireless MIDI, also known as WIDI.
Cast them down.
Hail, Metal Nation. I'm Tim. That's Mike. Every so often we do these, like I said, technical episodes. We did that DMX lighting one, which is surprisingly relatively popular.
Really?
In terms of our episodes. Yeah, because people want to know how to do it. And I think right up front we say we do it cheap. So, but another part of the ISENMOR rig. So ISENMOR is a dual violin folk metal band from Baltimore that we're both in, and we have an in-ear rig that is also connected to our backing track. So we have clicks and we have keyboards and now we have a light show and automated patch switching incorporated. So, you know, no one has to tap dance on stage in theory. And as we learned on tour, when I go to my clean channel, about 50% of the time I'm going to change the fucking patch bank. And the clean part comes out as this terrible, I don't even know what you describe it as. It was some factory patch on the Ampero that sucked. Yes, I toured with the Ampero.
Sounded fine?
Exactly, it sounded fine. So, anyway, WIDI. Mike incorporated, I'm not going to steal all your thunder. He incorporated a bunch of wireless MIDI into this thing.
Yep.
Right? And now, because of you, I have all this WIDI stuff now.
Yep.
So, let's discuss this, because I thought it did some things that it doesn't, and then I found out it did some things it does.
So, okay, as far as I can tell, the only real maker of these things is this company called CME. So when I first heard this, I was like, I don't know, like, because it just says MIDI over Bluetooth. Bluetooth is not necessarily the most reliable thing.
Yes, and I was extremely skeptical when you said MIDI over Bluetooth, and I said that sounds like a terrible idea. You said low latency. I'm like, I don't know about that.
So,
and yeah, but you had the idea and you went with it and dragged me along. I have changed my mind, by the way, just for the record.
Yeah. So one of the things that kind of talked me off the edge here was the fact that it is indeed part of the MIDI specification. So MIDI over Bluetooth has been adopted by like the MIDI org or whatever. So they do indeed kind of endorse this. They're like, okay, so that felt a little bit better. And then the other thing is that I am explicitly using these things for kind of infrequent messages. So it's like I press a button, it fires a MIDI message that triggers backing tracks, right? Which is a whole other discussion. But, you know, I figured the chance of that going wrong live is like, okay, shit, it didn't work. I'll go press play on the thing instead of triggering it this way. So, you know, I kind of was like, yeah, you know, this is okay, right? Like this is a low risk thing, but it actually works fairly well for its purpose. Now, I haven't done anything dense live, you know, where I'm sending out like gobs and gobs of MIDI data, but it seems to work. So that's what I got.
Yeah. So, Fade to Black has been using some, if we're at, so Fade to Black is the Metallica tribute I'm in. We have an entire video show, right? And we changed the patches using MIDI It's just built into the software. So I have a MIDI to USB thing at the end of it. Now here's the thing. I always either have way too much MIDI cable or definitely not enough MIDI cable. And we actually played last weekend at a venue in Pennsylvania, and the stage was so big, I have a coupler somewhere. I had to join my 2 MIDI cables just to get all the way. So I have a controller and the drummer has a controller. So either one of us can change the video. And it's just like starting it, right?
Right. Same sort of thing as ISENMOR. It's just like...
Yes, exactly. So, but just to link them up, it either goes drum pad to the MIDI controller floorboard to the computer, or the other way around. But it ends at the computer. We had to put the computer like right next to the the drums because I used all of my MIDI cables getting across the stage. Yeah, it was big. Yeah, so I didn't bring my WIDI because we weren't sure if we were. Well, I forgot it. I have never forgotten things, like all the stuff I forgot to bring on tour. But
that was fun. I whiffed so many things gear wise on that tour. It was so stupid.
We got through it. That's a different episode, though. So yeah, that was the rest of my justification for going in on WIDI, because I needed one for the patch switching in ISENMOR and RVG, which is going to be way more important because there's a lot more patch switches, and then also for this fade to black thing, and that is like all we use MIDI for at the moment. I mean, maybe there'll be more down the road, but when I got it, I was very annoyed at some things. All right, so I'm holding the WIDI master. All right, and it basically looks like a round thumb drive with a DIN connector at the end.
Yeah.
All right, and then in a headphone jack out of the side is this little nubbin. And it's basically just another DIN connector.
Not a headphone jack.
Right.
2.5. 2.5 millimeter.
Tiny. Yeah, it's the tiny one.
I've accidentally bought so many of those because I think that they're 3.5, and then I get them and I'm like, oh damn it, I did it again.
Now, so I mentioned I was using the Ampero. Usually I use a Helix, which has a MIDI in and a MIDI out. But I decided for spatial reasons, because we knew we were going to play at least one small stage. I wanted to bring the smallest effects processor I had. So I brought the Ampero, which only has MIDI in. There's no MIDI out. Okay, so when I got this thing, I expected... my understanding was you plug these in together, you plug it in, and they pair, and now you have both ends of a MIDI cable. That's what I thought was going on, and that is not what's going on. And they don't make it very clear, at least when you're like impulse buying it. So that's what I had expected, and I was like, why isn't this working? This is bullshit. What you're really buying is one end of 2 MIDI cables.
Yeah.
That's what WIDI Master is. There's an out, the big one, and this is actually important that I also didn't discover. This is the MIDI out one, and this is the MIDI in one. So if you just want to broadcast MIDI from somewhere, you use the big one. If you want to put MIDI into something else, you plug this into the out, and you have to put the little nubbin end into your MIDI in. Yeah, so this is powered by the MIDI out, period. MIDI in is not powered. So now I don't know if you caught my problem. The Ampero only has MIDI in.
Well, okay. Here's the thing. So the MIDI specification supports multiple voltages. Some of them support 5 volts. Some of them support 3. I think 3 is the older one. I like rolled over a cable here.
You didn't go all wireless in your studio?
I know. What was I thinking? But the fact of the matter is that largely most MIDI gear is already being powered by something. So the power supply being used over MIDI is normally irrelevant. So quite a few pieces of gear, even really good pieces of gear, don't supply the voltage. They just ignore it. So there's no power. So it could be that the Ampero does not implement the MIDI standard properly.
That is not what it is, because I found it on CME's page.
Oh, interesting.
That specifically MIDI in will not work. And that's also why there's a little arrow on the WIDI master.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Because it's out. So what is one to do? What you do is you go on tour without it. And then when you get home, you spend even more money on the WIDI jack.
Yeah.
Now, the thing about... So we've been talking about the WIDI master. Oh, there is more I want to get to on this. But just to close the loop on the... You only have MIDI input. So the WIDI jack is the same thing, basically. Only instead of like the thumb drive looking thing, you got this stupid setup where you have this blue square, and then you got to plug both dongles, I suppose, both MIDI nubbins into it via the not headphone jack. Okay. But the thing about this is you can power it with USB-C.
Yep.
Which is not clear either, at least on the Amazon listing, right? And it also, interestingly, I don't know if this will come through, but there's a circle on the bottom, like a metal, looks like a watch battery. What that is it comes with a magnet.
Yeah, it's actually pretty cool.
You can stick the magnet anywhere, and then, so now this lives under my pedal board, and I only use the in, and I finally have my MIDI in for patch switching on the Ampero, although in the future I'll probably just play my Helix anyway, which does power the WIDI master. So, you know, but now I could use the Helix to control the Ampero, so even better.
I mean, it's a pretty neat piece of gear. The other things about that WIDI jack or WIDI jack is that it can be powered by MIDI as well.
Yes.
If you have like a spec appropriate MIDI signal.
Right. So if you were to plug this into a MIDI output that's powered, it will power it.
Yes.
Yes. But also, I don't. The USB-C I have on there is just a cheap power bank that I had lying around. So I got to charge that before the show and then plug it in because it's low power anyway.
So you just get those Seox DC7s that have a USB port on them. And then that's what I do. There's also the WIDI U-host, which is interesting. The WIDI U-host actually serves as a USB MIDI host. And actually, give me one moment. I swear this is relevant.
Oh, he's going under the table. I just noticed he has the same chair I do. Can we get a shot of that? Yeah.
Okay. This is
These are mesh chairs, so you know the farts go right through them.
So, okay. This is not CME. This is a MIDI USB host. It's Kenton, which is some British company, but basically there is certain gear nowadays that's MIDI but has no DIN connectors. So what do?
But you're
If you want to
I
interact,
thought you were saying that didn't have DIN connectors, and then you're showing me 2 female DIN connectors.
no. But if I knew where it was, I do have a piece of gear it's a MIDI piece of gear. It doesn't have
here's
DIN
one.
But not even TRS. It's just USB and nothing else.
Oh, okay.
So this is a USB host. So you plug, if you want it to interact with your regular MIDI gear without going like through a computer, you can plug it into this, which converts it to MIDI, like DIN, and then go from there. If you're looking for one of these, the Kenton is the one to get. Everything else I've used is too slow. And I don't play that fast when it comes to MIDI stuff, so it tells you how slow it really is.
Is that the MK3?
Yeah, that is the USB.
The price on that is £74, 96 pence, excluding that.
Yeah, it sucks how much this is. But unfortunately, there's nothing else that really does this. But CME has the U-host, which is effectively that, combined with the Bluetooth MIDI. So you can actually get gear that supports USB MIDI, plug into it, and you can even power that gear from the U-host.
Nice.
Which is just nuts.
So they quote their latency at 3 milliseconds. I have not noticed significant latency.
Yeah.
I don't entirely believe 3 milliseconds. And I worry about too many WIDI devices. Because we have that problem with Wi-Fi, and I know it's totally different, but we had too many Wi-Fi devices. And to the point where this was on a recently vacated Graves tour,
oh god,
all the lights were wireless DMX, which used the Wi-Fi band, and our brain was controlled via a Wi-Fi controller and the venues. So like all of them together in the same room fucked each other. So
yeah, I still have nightmares about that show.
Yeah, so like what's the practical limit on how many WIDI things you can have? I don't know. But also, so speaking of a bunch of WIDI things, if you have 2, they find each other and shake hands and make nice. If you want more than 2, then there's more work for you to do.
You got to use the app.
You got to use the app, which
I'm lightly terrified by how easy it is to do.
Yes. It's but if you just get one, I guess if you just buy the master in and out thing, they seem to make you want to use it with your computer. It's like, oh, just download the app and it'll talk to the WIDI. But again, for my thing, I'm replacing a physical cable, so I got to buy 2 of them, which I did. And but then if you bring a third guy to the party, what you have to do is like go to each one, change a setting, make a group. It is easy, but it's also like annoying if you weren't expecting it, because again, when you plug 2 in, they handshake nicely,
right?
And then you have to write to the devices, which is the last step.
Yeah, so I mean, here's my question. I emailed them about this because before I bought it, I was afraid. It's like, you can load this app on your phone. Yeah. You don't need anything on your phone to do any of this, right? Like, you don't need like a dongle or anything. So if people were using this live, could I just load up my phone and just fuck up their whole show? You know what I mean? Like could
Please
I
don't
do
get
that?
any ideas.
I don't know. Like hypothetically, you know, with Bluetooth being the way it is, I shouldn't be able to do that. But with how permissive they are, I don't know.
Yes, there's your downside. So downsides are possible latency, which, you know, if it is 3 milliseconds, that's great. Who knows what the upper limit on WIDI transmissions simultaneous, and anyone can fuck with them. So,
Maybe.
so there you go. And the price. I mean, the price adds up fast if you're buying a ton of them.
According to the WIDI through 6 Bluetooth box, it says up to 10 devices simultaneously. Yeah. Which is pretty good.
That is good. I'm trying to think of a situation where you need 10 different MIDI devices.
This is 2 in, 6 out, and I count 1 in, 5 out.
Well, that adds up to 10, I think. All right, well, that's all I got. I wanted to save someone else the trouble of some of the research that I either didn't do or totally missed or is not available.
I mean, I'd say for us as like non-keyboard players, it works quite well. But we're literally using MIDI for automation.
Yeah, it's like blip.
Yeah, blip. Yeah. You're pressing it like once every. You're sending a MIDI note every 5 minutes. You know, we're not like Jordan Rudess.
Well, I do have that space oboe, you know, the Iwi.
Yeah.
It has MIDI out, so maybe I could do some tests one day. I don't know. We'll find out.
And I will say with the 3 millisecond latency, somewhere it says, you know, low latency, low unobstructed latency. So like if nobody's standing in between you and the thing, it's great. Yeah.
But like I think drummers start having a hard time at 6 milliseconds latency.
Right. Yeah.
10 bothers me, but that's 3 times their marketed spec, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean hypothetically it should be fine.
Yes, if I run into problems, I will complain. Don't worry. All right. Well, until next time, Metal Nation, do not download the app and fuck with our MIDI, because then we'll have to go back to cables. Yeah.
Cast them down.
You missed out on the MIDI, the WIDI Master Blue. I don't know what it is. I don't know what's different blue about it. And it says for synthesizer, Iwi Keytar.
Iwi.